Before we start the lesson, I have a small tip for you. If my speaking is too fast or too slow, you can change the video speed in the YouTube settings. Choose the speed that is comfortable for you to understand every word. Now, let's begin. Hello, friends. I'm Anna. Today, I want to take you on a journey to a place where history isn't just written in books. It's alive, breathing, and watching us with dark, intelligent eyes. Imagine a kingdom whose survival depends not on its gold, its navy, or its nuclear codes, but on 6 black birds. It sounds like a plot from a fantasy novel, doesn't it? But for the British Empire, this has been a serious matter of state for centuries. We are talking about the ravens of the Tower of London. To understand why these birds are the most protected civil servants in the world, we have to look past the stone walls and into the very soul of British history. To understand the ravens, we first have to understand their home. In the year 1078, a man known as William the Conqueror began building the White Tower. You have to imagine London back then, a city of wooden huts and narrow streets. Suddenly, this massive, cold stone mountain rises above the Thames. It wasn't built for beauty. It was built to intimidate. It was a psychological weapon. It told the people, "You are conquered. We are here to stay." But as the centuries passed, the tower became more than a fortress. It became a prison of high-stakes politics. Within these walls, the princes in the tower, 2 young boys who were heirs to the throne, vanished without a trace in 1483. Their story is a shadow that never left the castle, and wherever there is darkness, wherever there is the smell of a cold stone prison, ravens gather. For hundreds of years, they were the silent witnesses to the tower's secrets. They saw the betrayals, they heard the cries of prisoners, and they grew fat on the scraps of history. But why ravens? Why not eagles or lions? To the people of the Middle Ages, the raven was a creature of 2 worlds. Long before the tower was built, the Celts told stories of Bran the Blessed, a giant king whose name literally means raven. Legend says his head is buried beneath the Tower of London to protect Britain from invasion. In Norse mythology, which heavily influenced early England, the god Odin had 2 ravens, Hugin and Munin, thought and memory. They were his spies. They were his eyes. So, for a medieval Londoner, seeing a raven wasn't like seeing a pigeon today. It was like seeing a piece of the supernatural. They were believed to be intelligent observers of human fate. They didn't just fly, they knew. The most famous chapter of our story begins in the 17th century with King Charles II. He was known as the Merry Monarch, but his life was anything but easy. He had seen his father executed and his kingdom torn apart by civil war. When he finally returned to the throne, he was obsessed with order and stability. One story tells us that his royal astronomer, John Flamsteed, complained that the ravens were interfering with his telescope observations in the tower. The king's first instinct was to kill the birds, but then a prophecy was whispered in his ear. If the Tower of London ravens are lost or fly away, the crown will fall and Britain with it. Charles II was a pragmatist. He had seen the crown fall once before, and he wasn't going to let it happen again. He decreed that at least 6 ravens must always remain in the tower. Interestingly, there is no written document from his time proving this decree exists. But in England, a legend is often more powerful than a law. The prophecy became a psychological anchor for the monarchy. Between the 15th and 17th centuries, the tower's reputation turned blood red. This was the era of the Tudors. Think of Anne Boleyn, the queen who walked to the scaffold with grace, or Lady Jane Grey, the 9 Days Queen, who was only a teenager when she was executed. Tradition says that as the axe fell, the ravens sat in silence, watching. It is said they are the only ones who truly know the final words of the condemned. There is a chilling theory that the ravens we see today are the spiritual descendants of those very birds that lived through the Tudor terror. While historical records of official ravens don't appear until the Victorian era, the emotional history of the birds is much older. They became the ghosts of the tower, the keepers of its tragedies. In the 1800s, something interesting happened. Britain became obsessed with its own Gothic past. Writers like Charles Dickens and historians of the era began to romanticize the tower. They loved the idea of ancient curses and mystical guardians. It was during this time that the Raven Master, a special position within the yeoman warders, became a formal role. The Victorians understood that a great empire needs great myths. They polished the story of the ravens until it shone. They realized that if people believed the birds protected the kingdom, then the birds actually protected the kingdom by giving people a sense of continuity. The legend of the ravens was never more real than during World War II. During the Blitz, London was being destroyed. Nazi bombs were falling every night. The tower was hit several times. The stress was so great that the ravens began to die or fly away. By 1941, only one raven remained in the tower. His name was Grip. When Winston Churchill heard this, he didn't laugh. He didn't say, "It's just a bird." He understood that symbols are the backbone of a nation's morale. He immediately ordered the Royal Air Force to find more ravens and bring them to the tower. He even made sure they were given extra food rations while the rest of the country was starving. Churchill knew, if the public heard the ravens were gone, they might believe the prophecy. He kept the birds to keep the hope alive. Today, if you were to study these birds, you would find they are among the most intelligent creatures on the planet. Science has finally caught up with the legend. Ravens have been observed using tools. They can solve puzzles that require multi-step planning. But most importantly, they have social intelligence. They can recognize a human face and remember it for years. If you are kind to a raven, it will remember. If you are mean, it will tell its friends. In the tower, the Raven Master feeds them a diet that would make most people jealous. Fresh meat, blood-soaked biscuits, and even occasional treats like eggs. They are not pets. They are officers of the crown. They have their own names, their own personalities, and even their own retirement plans. So what would really happen if the ravens flew away? Scientifically, nothing. The world would keep turning, but culturally, it would be a disaster. In our modern, digital, fast-moving world, we are desperate for something that stays the same. The ravens represent 1,000 years of unbroken history. When a raven escapes, and it happens sometimes, the news makes headlines around the world. Why? Because the prophecy of Charles II still lives in our collective imagination. We want to believe that as long as those 6 birds are there, the world makes sense. The ravens are the living threads of the British tapestry. They connect the Viking sagas to the Tudor executions and the Victorian poets to the soldiers of World War II. They remind us that history isn't just about dates and battles. It's about the stories we tell ourselves to feel safe. The tower is made of stone, but the legend is made of something much stronger: belief. As long as the ravens remain, the story remains. And as long as the story remains, the kingdom stands. Before we finish our journey today, I want to ask you, is there a symbol in your country that people believe in, even if it seems illogical? Is it a bird, a stone, or a flag? And after hearing about Churchill, do you think he was right to focus on birds during a war? I'm Anna, and it has been a pleasure exploring the shadows of the tower with you. Until next time, keep looking deeper into the stories around you. Goodbye for now.